Good evening. Welcome. My name is Greg Leparati. Thank you for joining us for our first alumni career event of 2021. On behalf of the Office of Alumni Relations, I want to wish you a happy new year. I know we're all happy to turn the page on 2020, new year, new me. And though things are looking optimistic with vaccine rollouts and all that, we're still very much living in a new normal. So what can be done in terms of career pivoting during this pandemic? That's what brings us to today's event. A few quick ground rules. Everyone can leave their cameras on if they'd like. We enjoy seeing our audience's smiling faces, but definitely mute your microphones so we don't have any ambient noise distracting us. Finally, I'd like to ask you to please direct your questions to the chat bar at the bottom. We will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of this event, and we will try to get to as many of the questions as we can. And yes, there will be a recording of this distributed afterwards. Today's session will be led by Pamela Weinberg, a certified career management coach and personal branding strategist who works with individuals in all stages of career development. She specializes in helping make career transitions and has had success working with a variety of populations, including millennials, women in transition, and career changers. So without further ado, I would now like to present Pamela Weinberg.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year. Gregory, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working with you, getting this going for the alumni at Baruch. New year, new you. Very, happy to, as I'm sure most of us are, to turn the page on 2020. The times have been incredibly challenging, yet with every challenge also comes an opportunity. And what I've found in working with my clients through last year, through the difficulties of the pandemic, many people took the opportunity to pivot to a new career or think about pivoting to a new career, whether it be because of a layoff or a furlough, or maybe even just because they've had more time at home, more time to think, more downtime, and really had a chance to reassess, whether or not this was the career for them, or maybe it was a time to move cross country, think about going to grad school, or just change to a different career because you've been unsatisfied. So we're going to talk a bit about, all the different options, in pivoting and how to successfully pivot to a new career. So let's get started. So just a little, minute snapshot on the pandemic job market, which it has been really tough for so many people. Our employment levels are 11 million jobs below pre-pandemic level. The East and West Coasts have had the brunt of job cuts, and I know many of you probably live on the East Coast or are fairly local, as am I, and I've unfortunately had many clients who were laid off or furloughed during the pandemic. It's just been really very tough times here in the New York City metro area. People who've gotten new jobs are starting their new jobs without ever stepping foot in an office, which, if you really think about that, would have been unthinkable in 2019. But hiring for new positions has been fully remote, fully via Zoom, and onboarding for new positions is the same way. So that's definitely a new trend, and one that's probably here to stay for a little while longer. And finally, the workplace we know it may never be the same. The idea of remote work, which a lot of companies were, sort of not, maybe not really not prone to letting their employees work from home, telecommute, live in another city and keep the same job. All of that is really gone now because companies have seen their employees be successful, living in another city, working via Zoom, working remotely, not coming into an office. So that I think is something that will be in the plus column going forward in thinking about pivoting to a career that you can really, think out of the box, and not only think about what it would be like, having to get a new career in New York City, but perhaps to, continue to live in New York City, but find a job in another city and telecommute. So let's talk about how to pivot. So this is before we know where we are going in our pivots, we need to set up our roadmap. We need to have our plan of action set out. So we're going to do that first. So in order to start your pivot, you really want to think about your career objectives. What are you thinking about that you want to do? Do you want to change careers? Do you want to change jobs? Do you want to, get additional education to get a different type of job? What are you thinking about your objectives are as far as a pivot goes?
To begin to
Do your research. Research is so important in planning your pivot. And I'm going to talk a lot today about how to do that career research, whether it be, doing research on online sites. I'm going to give you a lot of resources. And also, of course, with speaking to people, doing informational interviews. And then finally, create a plan of action. Because without a plan of action, we don't know where we're going. And we want to really set what I would say, the GPS for your pivot. Really plan out your steps that you need to take in order to get there. And that's what we're going to go through today. So here is our step-by-step pivot plan. And I'm going to go through all of these more in depth. So why pivot? I talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the call, why people are pivoting now. It may be that the jobs they had just don't exist anymore. It may be that they have decided that in staying home and thinking of reassessing their skills and interests, they've wanted to make a change. So, variety of reasons for the pivot, and having the pandemic and being at home has really given people more of an opportunity to think. Self-inventory, we're going to talk about career assessments, how to do some assessments on yourself, on what are the things that are most important to you in your career, in thinking about your career. We're going to help create an action and productivity plan, fill in those knowledge gaps once you decide the type of career you'd like to pivot to, what you need to know, how to perfect your elevator pitch, and then finally how to update your resume and LinkedIn profile in order to make yourself a strong candidate in your new field. So first we'll talk about self-inventory. You want to really think about rediscovering your passions, interests, and strengths. For those of you who are out of work or have been laid off, that's really tough. And for many of you who've maybe been in careers for a while, and you chose a major in college and you thought that's what you were going to do forever, and now you have this opportunity to sort of rethink that. So it's a great time to review those. What do you like and what are you good at? What do you like to do in your career or daily job? Write those things down for yourself. What are you good at? Maybe it's analytics. Maybe it's you're great at doing Excel. Maybe you're a fantastic writer. Maybe you're a great marketer. Take stock in that for yourself in reviewing what it is that you like and what it is that you're good at. And that will really help you when you are looking at job descriptions to really see if those match up for you. This is probably one of the most important things for me as a career coach and working with clients, taking stock of your priorities, your career values. What are the most important things to you? in a career. I like my clients to have a list of 5. The top 5 things that are the non-negotiables for you in thinking about a new career. For many people, it's money. You need to earn a certain amount of money. For some people, it's flexibility. So, you sort of think about, money on the one hand, flexibility on another hand. Often those don't go together. If you want to make a certain amount of money, sometimes you don't have a job you can't get a job that's as flexible. So you may have to choose. Some other types of things that come into play with people's values, working at a company that has a mission that they believe in, that they can get behind, working with a team, choosing a company that puts a high priority on professional development. So those are some things to think about in choosing your career values. Why is it important to know what your values are? Because it gives you a metric to measure when you're doing job interviews, you're thinking about changing careers. Does that new career, does that new job line up with your career values? And if it doesn't, it's probably not going to be a happy place for you or a good fit. So, I think starting with values and skills and interests is a really important place to begin in assessing your pivot. Use some assessment tools. So these are the skills and interests and values. I sort of walked you through how to do that home assessment yourself. If you want to take it a little bit further, you can use an assessment tool. Typefocus.com, which has a lot of tools that are free. And another one that's Clifton Strengths, which costs about $49. And it's a great tool to assess what your top strengths are. It will come, if you do the assessment, the Clifton Strengths will send you a report on your top 5 strengths. And I find that very helpful for clients to know what their strengths are and how to lean into those strengths in order to choose a job that they want and also to perform well at a job that they have. So let's move on to research and preparation. So as I said, research is a huge part of deciding how, when, and where to pivot. So you want to research industries and companies that interest you. If you have an idea of now that you have your values and your skills and interests, you can start applying those and thinking about what industries and companies you might want to pivot to. Some good places to go for that are some websites like Glassdoor, Vault.com, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has a career page that lists fast-growing careers by zip code, so you can know what the fastest-growing careers are in your own area. As you could imagine from what's happened in the news over the last year, healthcare continues to be a growing area and field, as does any kind of medical research, medical devices, nursing, teaching. Those are all jobs that are really hiring right now. Define your transferable skills. So what's a transferable skill? A transferable skill is a skill that you have in your current job that you can utilize to work in another industry. So say you are an accountant and you have great skills with bookkeeping and Excel. What other fields or what other jobs could you use those skills in? So you might be able to use those skills in data analytics. If you're really good at Excel and you're good with numbers and good with figuring out how to analyze data and analyze numbers, that could be a great transferable skill for you to take to another kind of industry. So make a list, do an inventory for yourself of what your transferable skills are. Set up informational interviews. This is so important. How do you know if you're going to like a job in data analytics if you've never done a job in data analytics? I highly would recommend you speaking to people who work in the field that you want to work in, and have a list of questions to ask them about the field. Know your transferable skills, so you can talk to them about what skills you have and how you think they might be applied to a new position, and ask them a lot of questions about what makes somebody successful in their field. That's a great way for you to gain more information and intel about what a good fit for you would be. Once you've done a lot of this, once you've done your research on industries and companies, and you have your transferable skills, and you've done these informational interviews, you'll have a lot of information and data. And you may find, geez, I really want to go into data analytics, but I realize that everybody who's in that field that I've spoken to knows how to use SQL, and I don't know how to use SQL. So I know in order to be competitive in that field, I'm going to need to take a class. So taking a class, getting an additional degree, are other ways to make yourself more marketable in your pivot. So by doing that research, you will really be able to find out from people what are the most important skills that will make someone successful. And it may be taking another class, which, if you wanted to do that, you would. So there are, lots of different online courses like Coursera, Udemy, even YouTube, where you can take classes that are free, low cost, in your interest area. There are even certifications that you can take to get certified in like a Google Analytics if you wanted to work doing SEO or work in tech or content management. So you can get a certification, and those look great on your resume as something to really bolster your credibility in your chosen area. Okay, so you've done your research. You are ready to start thinking about what your next steps are. So what are the next steps here for you? So you're going to need to have a resume that is up to date and reflective of what your new career is going to be, and we're going to get into some resume tips coming up in the next couple of slides. The same with LinkedIn. You need a LinkedIn profile that's up to date. We're going to go into detail about that as well. Business cards, well, we're not really in person these days, so I don't know how important business cards are for now, but it's something that, when people are more meeting face-to-face, I love for clients to have business cards because it professionalizes them in a job search. So that if you are at a networking event or professional association and you're asking someone for a business card for them to follow up, you can give them one of your own as well. Line up references. Don't wait to go on your first job interview before you have a reference. Contact your former employer, former colleague, to let them know that you're in the job market, and you may be someone may be calling them for a reference so that they're prepared. Develop and create your elevator pitch. This is so important. An elevator pitch is important for your informational interviews, it's important for your regular interviews, and it's important for any networking that you're going to do. So everyone needs to be able to talk about themselves. And we're going to go into this as well. Another idea, it's the job market is definitely tough right now. And another way to gain some skills in your area that you want to pivot to would be to do some volunteer work. And I know, you may be thinking, how am I going to do volunteer work when everything is remote? Believe it or not, there are lots of remote volunteer opportunities. There are two websites. One is called Volunteer Match, and the other one is called Catch a Fire. And then there's always idealist.org, and they all list volunteer opportunities that can be done remotely. And this is a great way to build some skills in areas where you feel you might be lacking. Okay, so we talked about that all important elevator pitch. So these are some tips in how to create your elevator pitch and what to think about. So first of all, you always want to be prepared with one, because you never know when you're going to have an opportunity to meet someone. Literally, it's called an elevator pitch because this could be somebody who, lives in your building, who works in a field that interests you, and you may want to get some more information from them and set up an informational interview. So you want to always have that pitch prepared. Introduce yourself, your name, what you do, what you're thinking about doing. Get it, very clear. This should not be long. This should be 30 seconds to a minute tops. What makes you unique? What makes you unique and stand out? What skills do you have that make you a good candidate? And what's your goal? Is your goal to speak to this person to get information about the kind of job they have? Is it to ask them to introduce you to someone at their company? Is it for them to tell you a little bit more about what additional skills would be important for you to have? Always have a goal in mind. I always say to clients, make it easy for someone to help you. If you have this great contact and great opportunity, I think, one of the mistakes people make is to say, well, let me know if you hear of anything. That's not helpful. You want to be able to be specific and say, I would love to know, I would love an opportunity to speak with you about opportunities in the field of data analytics at your company. Or is there anyone you could put me in touch with in the field of data analytics? Be specific. People want to help you. Make it easy for them to help you by being as specific as possible. Be conscious of your nonverbal communication. If you're speaking with someone and meeting them for the first time, look them in the eye, smile, be friendly, stand up straight. All of that matters. People tend to remember, more about, our physical presence even than what we're actually even saying. So the nonverbal communication is really important. Always remember to exchange contact information. That's where those business cards could come in handy for you. And don't forget to practice. Going back to the first point here, always be prepared. So have this down pat. It's hard. I mean, I work with clients literally for like a 1-hour session on the tell me about yourself piece. It's hard, to really sift that down to 30 seconds. But you want to just really get out those salient points. What makes you unique? What's your goal? So that's really, if you can just get to those two, you're golden. Okay. So there comes a time in everyone's job search, and especially now that we've been home for almost a year, that we feel really stuck. And we get very down about, our progress and staying inside, and it's the pandemic and when is this going to end? And so I thought now would be a good time, since I've given you so much information, to think about relaxing and reducing stress a little bit. So some stress reducers that I have found really works when you are looking for a job. Stay organized for your search. I like to have people, sort of I do this myself, like on a Sunday night, I sit down and say, like, what do I want to accomplish this week? So job seekers should, set the same parameters. Maybe it's I want to reach out to 3 people a day. I want to I want to apply to these 3 jobs. I want to do this particular follow-up. I like my clients to have a spreadsheet, a job search spreadsheet that can keep them really organized with the jobs they've applied to, the dates they've applied, what the follow-up has been, and what the status is, so that you can have a document to refer back to keep your job search organized. Carve out job search time and don't search outside of your window. I know clients, if you're looking for a job, you can really, go crazy pressing refresh, refresh, refresh on Indeed.com or LinkedIn, all day, every hour. Don't do that to yourself. Say to yourself, every day from 10 to 12 and 4 to 6, I'm going to look at jobs or do job search. I mean, that will be my job search window. During the other time during the day, I'm going to take a class. I'm going to do some smart volunteering. I'm going to work on a blog. I'm going to do something that's, of interest to me. Take those breaks during the day. We all need them, whether it's, an exercise break, taking a walk, calling a friend, making a nice cup of tea. We all need a break. And I think people who are job searching tend to be really hard on themselves that, I shouldn't be taking breaks. I should be looking for a job 8 hours a day. That's just not possible, nor is it a good use of your time. You need to take breaks and really refresh. Connect with other job seekers to share ideas. Maybe you have a friend, or maybe it's someone else through the Baruch Alumni Association who's also looking for a job, and you can even do this together. Share ideas. Have a Zoom call where you both are looking for jobs at the same time, but you're connected and can talk to each other. Someone to look to proofread a cover letter for you. It really makes you feel less lonely. Looking for a job can be really, really lonely, and especially lonely during COVID. I used to tell clients who were doing job search, like, go sit in a Starbucks. You have more opportunity to meet people there on the line at Starbucks. Perhaps it would be a good way to strike up a conversation. And now, we can't do that here in New York City right now. So it can be really lonely. So it's really important to keep those connections with others during the day. Confidence boosters. We also all need confidence boosters during this time, and looking for jobs and going on job interviews. And we've all gotten, rejected from those, and our resumes go into a black hole. So I like for people to have a way to continue to boost their confidence. So I love the rule of 3. List 3 accomplishments that you're most proud of. Have those in your back pocket at all times so you can bring them out, whether it's during your elevator pitch, during a job interview, on your resume. What are 3 things that you've accomplished in your career that you're the most proud of? And in a down moment, you can always go back to those and say, like, hey, I did this. This was really good. I'm really proud of myself that I accomplished these 3 things. Develop a personal board of directors. Have some people in your corner or on your team who are, team Pamela. And those would be people who I would share my goals with, and they would be my accountability check-in. Not everybody has a career coach. I'm the accountability person for my clients. Not everybody has that, but you can develop your own. Share with, friends, maybe former, peers, family member, people who really have your best interest in mind. Let them know what you're looking for and have them hold you accountable. Like, Pamela, you said you're going to reach out to 3 people this week. Did you do that? And if not, why? What was holding you up there? It's great to have those people who are in your corner who can really give you a boost when you need it. Gain a new skill. So this was something I did for myself during the pandemic. I took a resume writing class. I always, written resumes for my clients, but I felt like I wanted some new pizzazz for my resumes. I really wanted to get more strategic on learning how to write a great resume for my clients. So I took a resume writing class, and it really boosted my confidence and helped in knowing that I was turning out a great resume product for my clients. So I highly recommend, gaining a new skill. You can do it free through YouTube videos, inexpensively through LinkedIn Learning, Udemy. There are so many places to take, low cost classes. Volunteer and make a difference. So I spoke about volunteer work before. Nothing makes you feel better than volunteering to help someone else, and with whatever your skill set is. If you're, someone who is a bookkeeper, to help a small business do their bookkeeping during this time. It's a good resume builder, and it's a feel-good thing for you as well. So let's talk about resumes. As I was saying, that I took my resume class this summer to build my confidence in resumes. I have some good thoughts on them. So first, keep it to one page. And I say keep it to one page, but if you're someone who's been in the who's had a career for 10 plus years, you can have a 2-page resume. If you're someone who has less experience, certainly keep it to one page. I like Times New Roman font. Arial's another font that people use for resumes, but just mind your fonts and use a font that's, easy to read. Proofread like crazy. One typo on a resume can just get your resume tossed into the file. If people, and cover letters for that matter, make sure that I like to read everything out loud. I think that's a great way to pick up typos. So when I write someone's resume or a cover letter, I make sure to read it out loud a few times, and you can even see if like a comma's missing or a period's missing or there's a word missing. I think that's a great tip. Use a simple format, no boxes or columns. So people have really pretty resumes that they've done that are super creative, that have their picture on it, or have boxes, or have columns, or have different colors. I like, a plain Jane black and white resume that's, very, very simple. Why? First of all, it's easy to read. Second of all, resumes, for the most part, if you're applying to a company through a company portal, the first eyes on your resume are artificial intelligence. It's not a person. It's an applicant tracking system who's looking at your resume first. They can't read a format. You want to make this as easy for the applicant tracking system to read as possible. And that leads me to keywords. Keywords on a resume is another very important factor because of the applicant tracking system. You want to ensure that the keywords on your job description, that you're applying to, match up to the keywords on your resume. So I always say to clients, line up 6 job descriptions for jobs you want, and you'll start to see a pattern. I even like to print it out and use a highlighter. You'll start to see a pattern of the same words and phrases throughout these job descriptions. Make sure that your resume has those words and phrases in them that match up. Obviously it has to be true. It has to be your real job experience. If it's not really your job experience, don't put words in that don't, reflect what you've done. But if it does, ensure that your resume and cover letter have the keywords that are in the job description. Some people still put an objective on their resume, especially people who are young and are sort of new job seekers. I would either take the objective out or switch that to a professional summary on the top, which highlights your biggest professional accomplishments, those top 3 accomplishments that I spoke about. And use metrics wherever possible. Metrics are really important in a resume. It goes from the show me, don't tell me school. So if you're saying on your resume, you're a top salesperson, we want to see the metrics, that you were, 50% over quota year, from one year to the next, or you increased sales on your team by 25%. Almost every bullet point can have a metric in it somehow, can be quantified somehow. So think about that in putting your resume together to have metrics. Networking. 80% of jobs are gotten through people who we know. That's a tremendous amount. So, if you think about the time that we spend sending in resumes through LinkedIn or through our portal without knowing anyone, and it goes into the full black hole. Somebody once described it to me as taking your resume, throwing it out the window, and hoping it lands in the right hands. That's how people feel when they're job searching sometimes. So I always say, I'd rather you apply to fewer jobs through your network than a ton of jobs without anyone to help you. So think about your network. So important when you're making your job search Excel spreadsheet, make a networking spreadsheet. Who do you know? Where do they work? Who do they know? Think about people who you've worked with in the past, former classmates, former professors, peers, friends, anyone that you can think of. Look through your LinkedIn, look through friends' LinkedIns. Who are they connected to? Who can help you? Really, really important. So, number one thing about networking: do it. It's the thing that I would say everybody pretty much hates to do. Nobody likes to make that call to someone and say, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? So you're not alone in feeling like, oh, networking, I don't want to do this. That's pretty standard. But I promise you, it's the most efficient way to get the job you want. Know what you're looking for and practice that pitch. Again, make it easy for people to help you. And I always say, when you're doing that kind of networking, you're networking with someone within a company, before you even make that phone call, go onto the company's website, see what jobs are open. And if you see a job that you think you'd be interested in, that's the best kind of phone call to make. And again, you make it so easy for someone to help you. Hey, Pamela, I saw a job opening at your company for a marketing associate. I'm really interested in that. As you know, I've been working in marketing for the past 3 years. Would you feel comfortable putting in a word for me with HR? Make it easy for people to help you. So do that little bit of homework up front before you make those networking calls. Carry business cards with you. We talked about that. Follow up and keep in touch. So this is important. Networking is a two-way street. It's not just, you ask someone for something once and then, that's it. You want to continue to follow up. Have a reason to follow up. Maybe you spoke to this person and they're a huge Boston Red Sox fan. And, you're chatting about the Red Sox, or you're on a Zoom call and you saw, some baseball from the Red Sox behind them on their desk. And you read an article a few weeks later about the Boston Red Sox. You're going to send it to the person. Hi, thought you'd want to see this. Hope you're well. You're not asking for anything. You're keeping in touch and building a relationship. And you never know when someone is going to need something from you. It's a two-way street. So I want everyone to remember that when they feel, fearful about asking someone for 15 minutes of their time. Ask for those informational interviews. You want to, ask someone for 15 minutes of their time to talk about themselves, to talk about their career. You want to learn more about the company. Have your ask down pat, whether it's a phone call, it's through LinkedIn, or through their personal email. Join professional organizations. So when you're thinking about, where you want to pivot, say you want to pivot to marketing, join a professional association in marketing. The American Marketing Association is a great one. There are lots that you can find through LinkedIn as well. Those are great places. When I became a career coach as a career changer 12 years ago, I didn't know anyone who was a career coach. And I joined a couple of groups on LinkedIn to ask some other coaches where they got their training. And it was just these professional organizations. It was just such a great place for me to really learn more about a career or industry. So I highly recommend doing that. Utilize your alumni network. I mean, obviously you all are here right now. I'm sure there are, I know from speaking with Gregory tonight and in the past, that there are so many fabulous opportunities for alumni at Baruch. So make sure that you take advantage of as many as you can. Even looking through LinkedIn to find other alums in fields that you're interested in and reaching out to them to let them know that you're both alums of the same school. They're much more likely to help you. And finally, tap into friends and family. you may be surprised that the people closest to you don't even really know what you're looking to do. So let them know, let them know how they can help you. Say like, hey, I know I've been in finance this whole time, but I really want to pivot into fintech. I know you know someone who works at Bloomberg. Would you feel comfortable introducing me? Let the people closest to you who maybe aren't, typically your business network, but your network of friends, let them know what you're interested in doing so that they can help you as well. Okay, so LinkedIn. So you got to be on LinkedIn, obviously, in order to compete in the job market today. LinkedIn has so many fantastic features to help job seekers. And one of the most important things you can do for yourself is to create a fantastic public profile so that anybody doing a search will find you, find your profile. That means you want to have a great photo of yourself. When I say professional or appropriate photo, I mean a photo that you wouldn't find on Facebook of yourself. It would be something where you're dressed professionally with like a white background, that you're by yourself. Anyone can take it with an iPhone. It doesn't need to be professionally done. Just an appropriate photo where you're in business attire. A creative headline. So LinkedIn is very smart and very intuitive. So what it does when you're creating your LinkedIn profile, it makes it really easy for you. So your headline will be whatever your most current job is. Maybe you don't have a current job, or maybe you're looking to pivot to a new career. So you might not want that job to be your headline. So create a headline that is reflective of who you are. My headline is something like, I think it's career coach, personal branding strategist, resume development, seminars and workshops. So I listed my headline, the things that I'm hoping if people are doing a search on LinkedIn for someone to write their resume or to give them career coaching, I'm hoping they're going to find me. So what's that all about? The keywords. So you want to make sure, like you do on your resume, you have the right keywords on your LinkedIn so that a recruiter or hiring manager is searching for someone like yourself, they'd be able to find you because the keywords would jive with who you are. You want to have a professional summary. So that's not something that sort of, if you're setting up your LinkedIn profile, that's something that you would want to add in your professional summary. So, the beauty of a LinkedIn versus a resume is sort of, a little stagnant and one-dimensional. A LinkedIn, you can be much more three-dimensional. Someone can really learn about your story. And for someone who does a lot of personal branding with their clients, this would be a missed opportunity if you didn't end up using this professional summary part, especially if you're pivoting into a new career. This professional summary gives you the opportunity to tell your story, to make those connections for a recruiter. I have been, in finance my whole life. These are the skills that I've gained, and I'm looking to, utilize those skills to move into the tech world, where I've also gotten I've come up to speed in SQL and data analysis. So it gives you an opportunity to really get those keywords in and tell recruiters or anybody finding your profile what you're all about. You want to have some recommendations on your LinkedIn profile as well from former bosses or colleagues who you've worked with. You want to connect with former bosses, colleagues, and peers. Sort of the LinkedIn rule, golden rule, is to try to have 500 connections on LinkedIn. That really helps you with your networking. And make sure that when you're asking someone to connect, you always give them a reason why. Let them know why. Like, hi, Pamela, I enjoyed hearing you speak tonight at the Baruch College alumni webinar. I'd love to connect with you. Let them know why. I saw you were quoted in an article. We went to college together. Let people, give them a reason. If people don't give me a reason to connect, I don't accept their connections anymore, because I have so many, and I want to be able to manage my network. Follow companies where you would like to work or that interest you, so you get news of those companies in your news feed right away. Utilize the search feature. The LinkedIn search feature is great for jobs and connections. You also can set up you can set up alerts for jobs, that you get alerts from LinkedIn every day when new jobs come available that are in your chosen field. And join groups, as I've spoken about, professional associations. Your Baruch College Alumni Association, I'm sure, has a group, and many others. And finally, final tips, and then I'm going to have time for questions if people have any. Final tips for managing your pivot. I talked about this a lot. Know your pitch. I think if we walk away with a couple of things, knowing your pitch is really important for networking, for talking to potential recruiters, hiring managers. Know all about yourself, what you're good at, what your accomplishments are. Set goals for yourself, maybe get that board of directors for accountability, and be patient. A typical job search takes 3 to 6 months. During this pandemic, it's definitely taken longer, although I have had clients who've had success at the six month mark. So hang in there and just be patient, and be flexible. This is not a time to have a really narrow view. This is a time, if we're thinking about pivoting, to be open, be flexible to other industries, to other types of jobs that you might not have thought of in the past, but you'd be open to now, because it's a tough job market, and you want to be able to keep your options open. With all of that in mind, I wish you a successful pivot. And I have some of these are, I mentioned, a bunch of different resources. So rather than having everyone have to write them down, they're here in the presentation. If anyone is interested in this, I'm sure this is going to be posted, I think, so you'll be able to have access to these as well. And if you want to contact me, please feel free to do so through email. Here's my website. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, I give a lot of good career coaching tips every week.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pamela. Really appreciate that. Lots of great insight there. I got a lot of questions from alumni, which I will get to in a moment.
Okay.
I wanted to also mention to everyone that we were talking about LinkedIn before. A great resource is to go to linkedin.com/alumni, and you can see all of the database of Baruch alumni, which you can search by class years, industry, all of that stuff. So it's a great way to find people in industries you're looking at if you want to have an informational interview, etc. I also got a few questions asking if we'll be sharing this presentation, Pamela. Will we be sharing the PowerPoint as well?
I'm happy to send you, Greg, a PDF of the presentation to have you send out. Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. Excellent. So let's get to some of the questions now. We'll try to get to as many as we can. One person asked, when it comes to certifications, what websites do you recommend? This might be going back to something you previously mentioned.
There are a lot of different, if you wanted to it really depends what you want to get certified in. So if you want to get certified in like Google Analytics, for instance, you would go on to like the Google website and they would take you through how to do that. If you want to get certified in Excel, you can go onto Excel. There are also, I mentioned Udemy and Coursera also have certification classes. And there's another one called Go Skills, which also has a lot of tech certifications.
Gotcha. Let's see. When it comes to volunteer opportunities, what type of transferable skills can you gain from volunteer opportunities? What might some of them be?
That's such a great question. So one of the skills you can get would be writing skills. You can, volunteer for a company or a nonprofit to create content for them, for their website, even do like the back end of their website if you want to get some tech experience. That's one area. Another area would be like on a website called Volunteer Match or Catch a Fire. A lot of those are really small companies where they need help in every area. You could do marketing for them. You could do public relations for them. They don't have the budget to pay someone to do it, but it's a great way to build your skills in that area and a great resume builder.
Excellent. We got another question here. Do you have any tips for those who just graduated and have very little experience? How can they stand out on their resume?
I think those certifications, I've been seeing that a lot. I work with a lot of new graduates and it's a tough job market. And I think getting those certifications is really helpful for the recent grads in order to really help themselves stand out in that way.
Sort of on the other side of the coin here, do you have tips on how to best explain or minimize gaps in your career on your resume?
I mean, I get that question a lot. I think the pandemic gap is going to be an easier, is going to be an easier one to explain because we all know that so many people have gotten laid off during the pandemic. However, what I tell my clients, a hiring manager or recruiter could say, well, so what have you been doing during this time? And you want to sort of have an answer, whether it is, volunteer work or doing some consulting or doing a project or learning that new skill. It's great to have some kind of an answer. And, that helps to fill in those gaps as well.
Do you have any tips on how to network in a virtual environment on Zoom and other things? Are there any specific tips to help with that?
I would say, everybody has 15 minutes of their time. So it's always, ask someone, do you have 15 minutes for me? What's your preferred method of communication? I always think that's a good way to go about it. Would it be a 15-minute phone call? Would it be a Zoom call? Everything's going to be, remote and virtual. And you want to make it as easy as possible for that person to help you. And there are some virtual, networking groups and, there used to be meetups that people would go to in person. Now that's all virtual and online. So there are opportunities to network within, as I mentioned before, professional association groups, alumni groups. So just get it well as you can.
Yeah, that's a good point too about, ask for their preferred method of contact. Surprisingly, I've been hearing a lot of folks saying they've been preferring phone calls the last few months and that it actually you can get up and do things, walk around while you're doing that. Yeah, so don't be afraid to our alumni on here. Don't be afraid to see if they want a phone call instead of Zoom, even though we've been living on,
Right.
web so long.
People definitely are having Zoom fatigue. I found that too, that people have been wanting to do phone as well.
How often should someone post on LinkedIn and how much is too much?
It depends what they're posting. I would say, since I'm someone who's like a brander, I would suggest that people post within their wheelhouse. So if I'll use myself as an example. So if I'm posting on LinkedIn, I'm going to post something about careers, about branding, about job search. I'm not going to post about how to build a website, so, and I would say, how much to post? It really depends what your goals are. If your goal is to become a thought leader in your field, then you may be someone who wants to post every day. If your goal is to get a job, then that may not be the best way to go about attracting attention.
Yeah, I hear you. I think also everyone has to think, is this useful when I'm posting? I wouldn't want to post just for the sake of posting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Here's a question. What should you put in your LinkedIn summary if you are open to many types of jobs and don't want to commit to one field?
I think you need to have some kind of umbrella statement. So even if you're open to a lot of different jobs, what's the through line there? Is it that you were a communications major and you want to be able to use your communication skills, whatever your job is? Is it that you're a business major and you want to be able to use your analytical skills, which can be utilized in many different fields? So I always like to think of the through line. Again, like make it easy for people to help you.
Right.
And that helps to make it easy.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a case where being specific is very helpful. So, like Pamela said, try to find that through line that unites things. How critical is having or sending a cover letter when applying for a job?
A lot of times it's cover letters optional. I think if cover letter is optional, you should definitely send a cover letter. It can only help you stand out.
If a person is pivoting, what are some of the best practices for combining more than one concentration in the skill set area on your resume?
I mean, I think if you have a skills section on your resume, it's usually, sort of in list form. I always think about when I'm creating a resume with a client, I try to be strategic in creating a resume and have it reflect where you're going, not only where you've been. So if I'm creating a resume for someone who's a career pivoter, I'm going to make sure that what's on that resume fits into that through line, like I was saying before. Like it would fit into that box. So the skills that I would want to have focus on would be the transferable ones that I would want them that they'd be taking to their next job.
Yeah, and I think also to your earlier point, Pamela, about crafting that resume so that it really speaks to the job you're applying to with the correct keywords and all that. Try to be specific and don't put skill sets that are superfluous on that specific resume.
Exactly.
Yeah. We got a question here. Is liking as effective as posting on LinkedIn if it covers your domain?
It's not as effective, but it's very good, and I think even I would go a step further than liking and comment.
Right.
I've had very good success, like a quick little anecdote. I ended up commenting on a very big career blogger's website. She had written like a long, blog post, and I didn't just like write like a sentence. Like I wrote like a really lofty response or comment, and it ended up really helping us to develop a real relationship as peers. And she's someone who was very well known and well respected in the field, and it elevated me in my thought leader status because I had this commenting relationship with her. So I think, liking is great. I think commenting is even better.
Yeah, excellent point. I think, putting yourself out there and being active on LinkedIn is more than just posting, obviously. Great point about commenting. I mean, being an engaging person on there is a great way to be.
Right.
We got a question here. What's the best way to follow up on a job after submitting your resume and cover letter when I don't know any contact or HR personnel?
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, that's the, I'm falling into a black hole situation. If you're applying through the portal and there's not a person's name, it's, dear hiring manager, it is really hard to follow up. I mean, what you could do would be to look on LinkedIn and see if you have any contacts. I would hope you would have done that before you applied. But if you didn't, look on LinkedIn and see if you have any contacts who work at the company who could potentially follow your resume, or reach out to the HR person to follow up on your behalf.
Yeah, excellent point. And also don't be afraid to look up alumni who might work at these various companies even before you apply, and just reach out and say, I'd like to speak to you about what it's like to work at this company. Would you mind chatting with me for 10 minutes?
Exactly.
We got one last question here. Someone writes, I had a few Zoom interviews where other applicants attended at the same time. Do you have any best practices for this situation?
Wow. I have to say, I've never heard of that. I've definitely heard of a bunch of interviewers and one applicant, not multiple applicants. I would say two things. Make sure to be collegial and engaging, because, you have to sort of put yourself in the interviewer's shoes. Like, what do they want to see? How do you function in a group? How do you function in a situation that you might not have been expecting to happen? So you want to be engaged, and that's so important on a Zoom call anyway. I'm assuming this is via Zoom. Nod your head, smile when someone else is talking, being engaged and staying engaged, even though this is sort of an off-putting and nerve-wracking situation. I think that would be really important.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've never heard of that situation, but hey, it's a new world with this virtual stuff. So
exactly,
anything's on the table. Well, thank you so much, Pamela, for this. This has been wonderful. And to all those who attended, we will be sending out the video of this as well as a PDF of the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to consult that. We hope to see you at some more Baruch alumni events throughout the year. We have some financial literacy events coming up later this semester. We also have some events in collaboration with our Star Career Development Center. We will keep you posted on updates about all of those as we finalize those. So I want to thank everybody again, wish you a wonderful new year. Best of luck with your career endeavors and your pivot during this year. Let's hope 2021 is going to be a great one. And thank you again, Pamela. Do you have any final words?
No, I just want to thank everyone so much for showing up tonight. And I really hope that you are walking away with some new tools in your toolbox for your career pivots. And if anyone has any questions that didn't come up tonight and would like to reach out to me, please feel free to email me, connect with me on LinkedIn and Instagram, and keep in touch. And I wish you all the best of luck. This was a pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pamela. I've shared my LinkedIn in the chat as well. If anyone wants to connect with me, feel free to do so. I love being connected with Baruch alums. Hope to see you all again soon. Thank you, Pamela. Have a great rest of your evening and take care.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.